All right.
Good to know.
And speaking of winter, Jeff, you wanted to talk a little bit about winter photography, or was this Nick?
This was me.
This is Nick.
Yeah.
But no, let's just pass it over to Jess. We'll clear him up.
Let's see what he says.
Off the top of your head, Jeff, what do you want to talk
Exactly.
about with winter photography?
Exactly.
It's cold.
Feels like high school speech. So yeah, it's winter. Like you said, it's snowpocalypse. The Pacific Northwest right now has just been inundated with snowstorms and really cold weather. Last night, I think it got down to like 5 below zero here, which is way colder than I prefer to be in. It's just very, very cold. And actually, those of you guys that know this already, I just got done leading an Iceland workshop. And while we were in Iceland, we were there and it was like 40 degrees. And then people are posting photos from home and it's like, 10 degrees and snow. And we were in Iceland and way warmer than they are. And they're all sending us pictures like, oh, it looks so cold. And we just didn't have the heart to tell them, no, it wasn't. But as photographers, like a lot of times you get the feeling that when it's really snowy outside, it's not the best time for photos, but it's really not true. There's a lot of different types of landscape photography, well, actually all types of photography that lend itself really well to being shot in snow scenes. Like in portraits, sometimes when you have tons of snow, it makes for just a really simple, clean background and you get the light reflecting off of the snow. And sometimes that's the best natural light you can get because you've got just this giant reflector underneath them and they get really nice light on them. But lately I've been traveling to different waterfalls and places around the Pacific Northwest because we have this unique situation where we have this rainforest with all these waterfalls and now there's snow and icicles hanging from the moss and it's just a really unique time. So basically I just wanted to inspire people to, when the weather gets like abnormally cold like this, a lot of times it's a really good time for photography because it's a great chance to go out and do something new and original. It's not the typical shot of your local icon that most people have in the middle of the summer when the weather's nice. When you shoot in the middle of the winter, things can be just dramatically different and you'll be the only person to get that shot. Have you guys been going out and doing much shooting lately? Anybody?
So I did actually have a really cool environment to shoot in a couple of days ago where it was very foggy. It was so cold and it just produced this fog that was super thick all day long. And so the sun, you could look straight into the sun pretty much because the fog was so thick and it made it look, I guess, a little bit more like the moon, perhaps. I don't know. But it was a really interesting environment, a lot different situation than the landscape ever looks. And so, yeah, I made sure to go out there and get some with, like, I have some, the black trees with no leaves on them against like the snowy ground and the foggy air with the sun kind of looking very unique with all that fog there. So it was a very cool shooting thing. I haven't processed it yet. I can't wait to get to that. But
so
That's
I
cool.
never have luck with luck. It's not luck. I don't have good skill when it comes to snow photos. The problem that I always have with it is that it removes all the cool texture from the earth, just all the interesting things happening on the ground. And so I just always have a hard time. I was just looking as you were talking through the best snow photos that I've taken, and they're not that inspiring. They're just really not. A couple from Iceland when you and I went last, Nick, that we had just kind of that dusting of snow that was awesome for the mountains and stuff. But when it's just like packed with snow, wildlife photography is great. But other than that, I just never have real great success. So what am I doing wrong? How can I get more inspired with this?
Well, I think the most successful shots when you're dealing with a snow scene, when all those textures go away, are when you have a really obvious subject, like a barn or a tree or a very singular, simple subject, because then everything else, that if you take that photo in the summertime, all those other things can kind of be considered distractions in a way. Like if you have a lot of textures and then a subject, sometimes those textures grab your eye as much as the subject. But if all of those textures just kind of go away, it makes for a very, very simple image. And sometimes simple can be really successful, you know, like your eye just goes boom straight to your subject, and it's a very minimalistic type of photography. And then there's other times where, you know, the snow is just it's a landscape that kind of lends itself to one composition. Like, you know, a lot of waterfalls are that way. We just photographed a waterfall in the Pacific Northwest that is it's very beautiful and very striking because the water is just this really deep aquamarine kind of bluish green. It's like very, very striking. And sometimes in the summertime, the color of the water gets kind of overshadowed by all the greenery that's surrounding it. But in the wintertime, when the only color really is that water, everything's white, and then you have the color of the water really pops and really stands out. And another reason I like that shot so much that we were able to get is that it's really, really hard to get to that place in the wintertime. It's hard to get there in the summertime. Had I known how difficult it was to get to, I probably wouldn't have let Majid talk me into going, because I almost didn't make it out of that place. But because it's so difficult, there's very few photos of it in the wintertime, which kind of makes that shot a little bit more special to me.
Yeah, that's cool.
See, but you guys, you're lucky though. The snow we get here in the Midwest, I mean, Nick, you were here, it's flat, you know. We're driving and Nick's looking around, he's like here's the landscape. I'm like, exactly, that's our issue. No, it's flat. And like the other day it was 50 degrees and now it's like 7 degrees. And in India, you know, tomorrow it could be 80 degrees there in Indiana. The weather's always crazy. So when we get snow, it's dirty snow because it melts quickly and then it mixes in with all the mud, and you've got to have the timing of it. I was frustrated. I had a wedding on January 30th and I had this epic shot in my mind of this couple standing under this like bird cage iron thing that I shared with it. It's on my Facebook page and my website. And I just envisioned it with snow falling down because originally, you know, they were predicting snow. And
it's not too late to do that, Brian.
I know. I don't like to do a whole lot of that type of photography. I'm not much into composites like that.
No, you can add the snowflakes.
I know.
Well, that's a good point, Jeff. Is it's tough to make snow, like when snow is falling, it's tough to kind of show that.
Really
in
hard
a
to
photo.
capture it.
You got to have deep depth of field, and even so, sometimes unless you have those big fatty snowflakes coming down, sometimes you just don't really even notice it in a photo. Usually when it's snowing, I'll capture the snow and then I'll add more snow in Photoshop. Otherwise, you just can't really even tell.
Right.
But I had this nighttime vision with the flash going off behind the couple, which it did and all, but just lighting up the snowflakes that were in between me and them, you know. So it totally would have popped and would have worked, but it didn't.
But it didn't. So this is totally a rat hole, and I know it. But a tip for getting those snow shots is to have a dark background to put the subject against, because the way to really see those snowflakes falling is to have them contrasting against a dark background. And another tip is to just rattle off a whole bunch of photos of that same composition, the same portrait, and take 15 photos, and then you can overlay them in Photoshop and just do a auto blend, and all of those snowflakes are going to come through, and then you've just tripled the amount of snow that you had.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's a good tip. Thank you.
Next time I'll take some flakes of mashed potatoes, and I'll sprinkle it in front.
Yeah, there you go. The dried mashed potatoes.
Before every shoot, he can just go.
Some people throw rice at weddings. Brian McGuckin throws instant potatoes.
There you
go. Exactly.